Hello, hello, hello. Did you miss me? 'Cause I'm back. And welcome back to another podcast of I'm Not Okay with Danny G. And guess what, guys? I have not been okay. That's where I've been. Not doing okay. Gonna do a little something different. Just gonna chat with you guys. I want to be one-on-one. I want to be so intimate. I want to be up in your ear. And I want you to hear me. Do you hear me? Just kidding. I put my mouth super into the mic for that one. I'm just going to talk to you guys. It's really going to be about nothing specific. Just kind of all over the place of where I've been and why I've been gone. And why I do these episodes of like being here and then not being here. You know, if you haven't figured it out yet. To the few listeners who listen. If you hear a meowing in the background, that is my new little baby kitten, Mika Allie, and she is driving me nuts. She's maybe 6 weeks old, and she just does not know how to hush or be by herself. And I didn't want her around me when I make this podcast because she tends to eat all the wires she can find. So, little Miss Mika is out running around, but if you hear a little meow, that's going to be her. Alright, guys, so I didn't put out a podcast last week. I didn't want to because the holiday was coming up and I had a lot going on, and I kind of figured everyone else did, and I would have liked to in a perfect world, but because of the way I make my podcast, it just didn't work out, and I was just overwhelmed. So I said, I'll go live. And then the day that I wanted to go live, which is Wednesday when I make the podcast, was the day before I was going to leave out of town. And so I was just so busy that day. And I don't know why I make commitments to things I'm not going to do. Kind of like the podcast. Not that I make a commitment. It's just a commitment to myself to put one out every week. I enjoy making these podcasts. I don't do it for anyone but me. But I've always tried to find things that I thought people would like or are interested in or find funny. So at one point or another, people will come and listen and enjoy. So lately, I've just been feeling a little down and, a little bummed that I only have but I've just been feeling down and bummed about the views and things like that and the listeners I have. Not that I'm not appreciative of the ones that I have. It's just that I really thought what I had to say would catch more people's ear in this matter. But it doesn't look that way. And it's always been okay with me. It's never really bothered me until recently, and I don't even know why. Because I even said when I put this podcast together that I'm going to make this podcast for me. Whether someone listens to it or not, it's just what I want to do. I've always wanted to be on a podcast. I've always wanted to make a podcast. And that's what I've wanted to do. So going forward, that's what I've always done. And, there's been times here and there, if you've been a listener, an avid listener, that you know that sometimes I don't put something out. Sometimes it's for a reason that I'm going to put out a big podcast, so I'm going to focus a lot on that and edit that. And there's other times where I just don't put anything out for a week, maybe even 2. And it's really, sometimes I feel like I have nothing to talk about, and so I don't want to put bullshit out. I don't want to just be talking to talk out of my butthole. And so sometimes I'm like, I really have nothing to talk about, so I don't want to put a podcast. Then there's other times where I just kind of get in my own thing, where I just want to be in my room under my covers and watch TV and just like shut off. So lately that's what it's been. I've just been wanting to be in my bed under my covers and just kind of veg out when I get home from work and just not do anything. And I didn't know what it was at first. And, there's times where I don't want to go out. I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to be around anyone. And not that there's necessarily one thing wrong in my life. Like there's no love problems or family problems or anything like that. I just get in these moods. And I was just wondering why. Why does this happen? I don't know. Is it just me? Like, what's wrong with me? And then I was thinking about it, and I was like, man, it comes in waves. What is that? One of the other podcasts I listen to is called I'm Sorry, Dad, with Rydoon and Brandon Caveo, and I really enjoy listening to them. They just talk about random things, topics with each other. They just bullshit. They get really deep sometimes. I mean, there was an episode where Brandon got his heart broken and he was legit crying the entire podcast, and it like makes you want to cry, like your heart bleeds. Like I wanted to give that kid a hug. Another host on the show is Rydoon, and he talks all the time about his depression and his mood swings and things like that. So listening to him more and more, and I was like, sometimes he says stuff and he'll say it jokingly because he's a comedian, but it catches me, and I'm like, I think I forget that I have issues too. And I was like, that makes sense. That's what these waves are. I don't talk about this much, but if I'm asked, I can answer it. And it's a whole other issue, and I don't know how far I'll go in this podcast because, trust me, it goes far down the rabbit hole. But I am diagnosed with bipolar and depression. I was diagnosed with those way back in the day, like when I was 12 or something. And I dealt with those issues my whole life. I saw therapists, was put on medication, was put in institutions to get better, things like that. So it was to the point where as I got older, I felt like I had a handle on things because I didn't feel the need to take medication anymore. So me and my doctors had lowered my dosages till I was finally off. Just because you're off medication doesn't mean that the illness goes away. It just means that maybe you don't need them as much, because at one point I was on such high dosages of both those medications. I think I was on like 150 milligrams of Zoloft and like 300 milligrams of Seroquel, and that's high. I'm sure whoever listens to this will Google it and see those are some crazy dosages, but that's what they felt were needed at the time. So we kept lowering it till I felt like it was manageable without medication. I didn't want to be on medication the rest of my life. I just was worried what it would do to my liver and what it would do to my mind and things like that. So I stopped taking them as a young adult. Now, like I said, I still get these waves of feelings and emotions, and I do have high highs and low lows, because that is like the phrase you hear when you are diagnosed bipolar. You have high highs and low lows. Ugh, it's so annoying. Like, I don't even know what the fuck that means. But I guess I experience it, so sometimes I don't even know it. But I'm like, oh, sometimes I'm super happy, and then I can go super bummed. But for the longest time in my life, even now, current time, I always feel pretty good. Like, I haven't felt depressed in a long time. Like I said, there are these days where, like, I just want to be in my room and chill. I'm not sad or anything. I just kind of want to, like, not do anything. But according to some people, it's not okay to not want to do anything all day. So I take that with a grain of salt. But I guess the grains of salt have added up, because now I'm noticing that it's not right to feel this way. And it's kind of happening a lot more than usual. Like I said, I'm not sad about anything. I'm not suicidal. I'm just kind of like blah. Just super blah. But anyways, I'm getting distracted. I don't even know where I left off on this podcast. It's going to be a mess. So, FYI. I listened to this other podcast. I'm sorry, Dad. And one of the hosts, Rydoon, goes through these waves too. Or, he has his mom had bipolar, and it affected him. And so I was thinking about me having bipolar, and I forget that I have it sometimes, because I really don't feel like I did back in the day. But then again, thinking about it, I got diagnosed so young that I don't even understand why someone would diagnose me with it. When you're 12, 13, you are going through like the worst part of your life. Like, your body's changing, your mind is changing, your views on life are changing. You find out things you didn't know before, or things are making more sense that didn't before. And I was having a hard time in my early preteen teen years because of stuff going on in my home life. It wasn't the best. Some life-changing events happened in my life around 9, and 13 is when, like, it got to the point of the worst it could be. And then from there, it just went super downhill. And so I don't think I was misdiagnosed, but I think I was just diagnosed too early. Like, yeah, I was angry. I was angry for a reason. I was a teenager. I wasn't like, oh, my life is hard. Like, no, I just did not have the best communication at home. I didn't have the best most stable home environment at home. So, there was a reason for my anger. It wasn't just teenage angst. And since the people I lived with didn't know how to handle me, they sent me to a doctor where a doctor said, oh, yes, something is wrong with her. She's bipolar. Oh, yeah, and she gets sad sometimes, even though she's a teenage girl. She's depressed. Like, what? I really wish I would have been given more time before I was diagnosed or put on medication, but I wasn't. So from there, I was on medication growing up and all that. But now I'm not. And I don't feel like I need to go back on anytime soon. I don't feel depressed. I don't feel sad or anything like that. I just feel blah sometimes. But I do notice recently that my emotions tend to, when I get mad, sometimes it could be over something very little, but I get mad so quick. Or if I get upset about something, I can cry very quickly. And then, I don't know if this is part of being bipolar, so if you have bipolar, please let me know. But it's like once I vent to someone about how I feel, I always feel so much better, and I can wipe that feeling of whatever it was away and then just move on with my day. And I don't know what that is. So with what's going on now, I've just been so bummed. There's nothing that's really caught my eye that I've wanted to talk about that I thought would be interesting or funny or controversial enough. It's to the point where I was like, well, what am I watching on TV that I can talk about? And I was like, nobody wants to talk about the Kardashians, Daniela. Hello. I just watch stuff to watch it, honestly. Sometimes it's just background noise and I'm watching it, but I'm not even paying attention to it. And I just haven't had, a fire under my ass, pretty much. So I listen to podcasts every day on my way to work, home from work, while I'm at work. So I'm always listening to podcasts, and sometimes I'm listening, like I said, it's just background noise to me, and then it's like I'll snap out of it. And today was just one of those days where I snapped out of it. I was listening to the most recent podcast of I'm Sorry, Dad, and it was a live show they did, and they had a guest star, Jason Nash, and it was just a funny podcast. There was nothing really that hit home or made me cry or feel anything. It was just one of those, it just felt funny to listen to. I was actually laughing out loud at work. Oh shit, you're at work, girl. People probably think you're crazy because not a lot of people can see your AirPods, so to them it just looks like you're laughing at yourself. But it felt really good, and then I was like, oh, this is cool. I haven't had a good laugh in a while. Then I got excited because the podcast I listened to was promoting another podcast that I listened to, and I was like, oh my god, what the heck? It's so cool when you find out influencers you like, no other influencers you like. I don't know why that gets me so excited, but it gets me going, guys. And so I was like, what the heck? And I had tweeted something about it, and I was like, oh my god, what I just said. And the people from both podcasts responded, and I was like, oh my god. Fucking fangirling over here. I posted the pictures on Instagram, and if you follow me on Twitter, you'll see who they are and all that, but it really made my day just to see that. And I was like, wow. So after listening to the I'm Sorry, Dad podcast, I was kind of after laughing and just having a good chuckle, I was like, I really need to make a podcast. Who cares what it's about? Just make a podcast, Daniela. Put your lips to the mic and do it. I was like, yeah, it could be funny or it couldn't. Who cares? Just make a freaking podcast. And it felt good. Then when, I made the post or whatever, when I made the tweet and then I saw all that, I was like, oh my God, I got podcast love. These people that I love make podcasts. They are the reason I made my own podcast. I need to make a podcast. I need to get off my ass. There's just no excuse. There's going to be times where I don't know what to talk about, and I will dig so much harder and so much deeper to try to find something. But I really need to try harder. This is what I want to do, and I don't even care who listens and who doesn't. If no one listens to this and it's just a rant of me talking and no one hears it, who cares? At least I made a podcast, and I'll be proud of myself. I put it out on time. I edit it. Those are big things for me. And that helps me stay motivated to not come home and lay in my bed and hide under the covers and watch the Kardashians. Not that there's anything wrong with that, because I plan on doing it afterwards. But it's going to feel good again to make a podcast. Like, I like that. It makes my juices flow. Like, I get happy and I get excited. And that's what I want. I want to be happy and excited again. I want to make podcast again. Not that I can or I went away. I was only gone a week and it was Thanksgiving weekend. So I know it was kind of a heck of a week and all that. So it was a little rough. But I plan on trying a lot harder and trying to be there more and, make a freaking podcast. It's not even hard. Like, I have all the stuff to do it, so I just need to do it. Like, why not? This is what I wanted to do. Like, I really have always wanted to make podcasts. I have the YouTube, and it's not really my thing. Like, I would like it to be my thing more, but it's a lot of work, and that can get overwhelming to me. But this I like. It's fun, and I enjoy it. So I'm not going to let the things that keep me down or these funks I get into, I'm going to try my hardest to stay positive and stay focused. But I did want to come on here and talk about where I've been and why I disappeared for a while. And I don't know officially or what, but I think it's because of my bipolar and depression. Like, those waves of like not wanting to do anything coming. This last one was a real big one, and it's been a big one, not just in my podcast life, just in my whole world. Not wanting to do anything. It's like I go into autopilot. Like, wake up, go to work, go home, wake up, go to work, go home. And like I said, it's not bad or good or anything. It's just I'm just doing it to do it. And I didn't know why. And like I said, I don't want to go back on medication. Not that I thought anything was wrong with me on medication. I don't want to be dependent on it. I don't think it's good for your body to have all those chemicals in you. And if you knew what I did for a living, you'd probably get a good laugh out of that. But it's honestly how I feel. Also, I'm the worst person to take medication. I am a baby. I hate medication. I just hate it. I don't like to take it. I'm the worst. Oh, you can't get me to take medicine for nothing. There are other things I could do, other alternatives. I know that every time I listen to a podcast, they always talk about this app. I think it's called BetterHelp. You think I know? I listen to that advertisement all the time. And it's like this app now where you can download it and you can like talk to a therapist or text a therapist or something like that. And I don't want to do that either. Not that it's not a bad idea. If you want to do it, definitely go do it. There's an app out there. If you feel like you need to talk to someone, there's a way to talk to someone, and they have all types of services. Not sponsored. I wouldn't even know what to talk about. I just feel blah sometimes. I couldn't tell you. So now that I have this motivation and I'm so happy that, I laughed. Something made me laugh. I felt a feeling. And from there, I put out into the world that my favorite podcast did that, and I enjoy these podcasts, and they responded with positivity. It kind of made me feel better. And so I just felt the need to come on here and tell you how I felt. And that is, I've been down and depressed. Whoop whoop. And now I'm not anymore. Just kidding. I don't know. I don't know if I was, or I don't know if I was depressed or if I am. I'm not saying when I get off of this podcast, I'm going to go do great things in the world. No, I'm going to get off. I'm going to edit. I'm going to watch Kardashians. I'm going to eat freaking chips and just chill and veg out. But I feel better. Today I felt really good, and I hope I feel that way again. It's real funny because I've noticed lately, I woke up, I slept good yesterday, the day before. I think the day before that I didn't because of this new little kitten, Miss Mika, the Mika monster. She did not let me sleep and was meowing in my face at 4:30 in the morning. And it just was not working for me. But I did notice yesterday and the day before, last night and the night before, I slept really good and I woke up happy. I went to work happy. I've just been in this very good mood. It's just gradually getting there. And then today waking up good, and then all the stuff with, like I said, it's just making me feel better. Holidays are coming up. Sometimes those can be a little depressing for some people. I try not to let it get to me. I don't have what I need for the holidays, which is a special someone and a huge family and all that. Like, it's really not, it's just the 2-3 people in my life and that's it. But I'm okay with that. And I've come to terms with that a long time ago. That's why I'm saying I really don't blow up the holidays. But I feel like if this wave comes back, that could be an issue that I think about, like, I don't have any family here. I have family where I live. I have my dad and that's it. But I really don't like to lean on him and things like that. He's not a big holiday person, so it bums me out being around people who don't like the holidays, because I do like the holidays. I enjoy them. Halloween is my favorite and it's over, but Christmas is coming and I'm trying to be super positive. I feel like as of right now, if I put positivity out there, I want other people to be positive and happy. I don't want to do it for me. Like, I want to be happy and in a good mood and super Christmas spirits for other people so that they can feel good. Because I'm okay with my life. Like, it's really not going to change. So I just want to make other people feel good. Like, I want to be happy so that other people are happy. Because there are some people who get bummed and down around the holidays, and I don't want them to feel that way. So I want to make them feel better. Not for any particular reason. It's not going to make me feel better to sleep at night. I just want to do it. So I'm going to try to be more positive and do more positive things and put positive energy out there so that other people can feel the positivity. Woo! But like I said, we'll see how that goes. There are going to be times, I'm sure, between now and freaking Christmas where I just don't feel positive and you get stressed or you get bummed. I did do Black Friday shopping, so I feel good about that. I got my dad a gift. I got my best friend a gift. I got some other people gifts. And so my list was very short this year, and I got everyone a main gift. So now it's just a matter of like going back and getting like little things here and there. So that feels good. I'm working on Christmas. I work on Christmas Eve. I work on Christmas Day. I work on New Year's Eve. I work on New Year's Day. And I don't mind. I'm not mad about it. I'm not sad or bummed. Just how it worked. And it doesn't really bother me. I'm totally fine with it. So, in all honesty, make that money. Get that time and a half. I'm okay with that. But that's how I feel. Just wanted to come on and tell you guys that I'm around. I'm okay. I have bipolar and depression, so sometimes I'm better than other days. And other days I feel like poop. And then there's weeks where I feel like poop. And there's like no specific reason. There's no one hurting me physically, mentally, emotionally, things like that. I just feel blah. Like I can go do the things I need to do to move on with my life and get my life going. But there's really no emotion behind it. Like I said, it's like I'm on autopilot. But it doesn't mean anything's wrong. Just that's how I go. If I sit there and think about it a long time, I'm sure I can find things why I'm sad or why I'm depressed. Like, oh, I don't have a girlfriend. Oh, woe is me. I really don't care though when I'm happy or sad if I have a girlfriend. Like, that's just not something I'm concerned about right now. I really want to focus on me, myself, and I. And that's what I try to do. Home front, I'm blah, whatever about it. I have, family. They're there if I need them. But ain't nothing special going on that's like, not special. There's nothing serious for me to be super sad or super depressed about. It's really just me not wanting to be a part of the world. And I want to push myself to be a part of the world more. So that's what I'm going to do. I am going to try and I'm going to work harder. I love my podcast and I think I just needed to be reminded of that. I appreciate the other podcasts I listen to that don't even know, but they made me feel good today enough to make a podcast. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to work super hard on getting back. I'm making podcasts. I'm making good content. I enjoy making podcasts. I don't even know why. Like, I don't even like the sound of my own voice. Like, I literally hate the sound of my own voice. I edit the podcast once. I can't do it more than that because I just don't even want to hear my voice anymore. but I love talking to people. I love talking about topics. I really enjoy it. So I want to continue to make podcasts, and I'm going to try to work really hard to make good podcasts. You know what? Let me correct myself. Make adequate podcast. I will try harder to make adequate podcast. They're not going to be the best. They're not going to be amazing. I'm not going to have 5 million listeners. I understand that, and I know that. I've never done it for the listeners in the first place. Like, what platform did I come from that I would even have listeners? None. This is just me throwing this like a hot dog down a hallway. Hopefully someone's hungry and eats it, and maybe they share it with a few people. If not, it's cool. Like, I love the people who do listen. Even if you don't, at least I know I did it, and I'm trying. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep putting this out there, and I'm going to keep trying my darndest. I'm just going to keep trying. I'm going to keep trying my darndest, and I'm not going to stop. Okay, guys? I do want to take a moment to talk about the other podcasts I listen to just a little bit longer to show appreciation for them. Not looking for clout, because I'm not a clout chaser. This is honestly and truly, because I'm sure they'll never even listen to this podcast. Me just honestly and truly telling you, if you listen to me and you like podcasts, listen to these other podcasts, because this is where I listen to them, and I'm like, they're the ones who get my mind thinking about things to talk about on podcast. Or they'll bring up topics that I'm like, I want my opinion of whatever's going on in the world on a podcast. So the first podcast, like I said, was I'm Sorry Dad with Raya Dune and Brandon Cavello. Awesome podcast. So funny. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's super serious, and sometimes they have special guests, and sometimes they don't. Or they'll, what do you call it? They'll read emails and respond to those. But I like them because they're two guys just shooting the shit, and they're funny. Like, they're sarcastic. They have satire. I just appreciate their podcast for what it is, which is just two guys fucking there. The other podcast, Other People's Lives, oh my god, it is so good. So, like, originally, it was these two guys, Joe Santagato and Greg Dybeck, and they were, like, answering ads on Craigslist for, like, the weirdest things they could find. Or not even weird, because I don't want to be disrespectful, but, like, the strangest things they could find. And they've had so many different guests on their podcast. They've had, like, furries, and they've had, like, a 40-year-old virgin, like a legit 40-year-old virgin. They've had people who are, you know, like to be treated like babies. They've had people who are really, really, like, sometimes they're sexual and sometimes they're not, but I just feel like a lot of the times they kind of are in that dark room that, you know, you don't want to go into, but sometimes people crack the door. Like, they've had such interesting people. They've had a stripper. They've had a hooker. The last one I listened to, it's the current one I'm listening to. I didn't get to finish it today. Was they had a sex phone operator, and it's so interesting. And they've had people who talk about, like, if the earth is flat, they have a whole range of different different people they interview on their podcast, and it's so interesting. You know, you get to hear it, and you have questions, and 99.9% of the time, they're going to ask the questions that you were already thinking. They've had people on there who are vampires. Like, I just can't stop naming all the different things because they're all so interesting. So if you like a podcast and you like an interesting one, it's a really, really good one. I'm not promoting it or anything. I'm just telling you what I listen to, and I really enjoyed that podcast. The last podcast I will talk about that I listen to that helps me when I'm down and, like, in the dumps is my favorite podcast, which is The Basement Yard. I have listened to The Basement Yard since it's come out. I loved, there's two hosts on that one as well. It's Joe Santagato. That's his main podcast. And then, Danny Lopiore. Oh, I hope I said his name right. Sorry if I didn't. They're two guys, and they're funny, and they have special guests too. And that one's just like a bro podcast, and I know I'm not a bro, but, like, I just like the way they talk. Like, they're funny, and they just talk about random shit, and then they go there. I don't know how many times I have laughed at that podcast or, like, talked to that podcast as if I'm there. And I promise you, every time I listen to it, I always end up tweeting them responding to something they said in the podcast. Not that they respond, but because it's so funny and so interesting. Like, random stuff. There's been podcasts where they talk about, like, your favorite Lunchable, your favorite candy, or just things like that, or what's going on in the news. Like Drake dating a 14-year-old girl. Whoa, sorry. Did not date, but is friends with the 14-year-old girl. Just things like that. I really have loved that podcast since the beginning of time. So that one I've never fallen behind on since I always listen to it every week, and now it's on YouTube so you can watch it. So I tend to listen to it as soon as it comes out on Monday morning, like on my way to work or at work, and then throughout the week I'll watch it, because now I like to they just put it on YouTube so you can watch the whole podcast, and I love it because sometimes, like, they do something funny and you hear it in the podcast, but now you get to see it, and I really enjoy that. So yeah, those are the podcasts that I listen to and that I enjoy. Those are the recent ones I have listened to that gave me motivation again, gave me fire again. And I appreciate it, and I am thankful for it. And I will probably show them love this week so that you guys can go check them out. Yes, I'm a podcast, and I want you to go listen to another podcast, because if you're listening to me, you should go listen to them. That is where it's at. I'm just little old me. No one gives two fucks about little old me. But those guys, they're hilarious. All of these people are pretty big. Like, they have very big followings, very big platforms. They're YouTubers. They've been Viners. They're comedians. Like, they're like all legit people. So please go check them out if you haven't already. And, if you want to talk about those podcasts or things that they have said on those podcasts, please let me know. And I would love, love, love to talk about that stuff on a podcast. Go check them out. If you have a favorite episode, tell me and we could talk about it. You could DM me and you'll probably be my new best friend, because I love podcasts. I'm always looking. It's just like Netflix. Like, if there's a new podcast out there or one I've never mentioned that I should be listening to, please let me know. I want to thank everyone again for listening to this stupid podcast today. Woo! And I'm feeling so good and so positive, and I'm going to get off right now, and I'm going to make this podcast so good, put it out so that you guys can enjoy it. I'm super sorry for being depressed. I'm super sorry for being bipolar. I cannot help it, but like I said, I'm going to try my hardest to continue to do this. This is the one thing that really always makes me feel good. And if I stop it, whether it be because of something else going on, or I get worried and worry about the few people who listen, like, it's the holidays, they're not going to listen to me, let me not put a podcast out. I don't want to blow up everyone's feed with, like, something stupid. Like, I'm going to do this. This is what I like to do, and I'm going to put it back out there for the world. If you don't like it, then you don't have to listen. And if you don't want to see it, then you don't have to follow it. But this is what I want to do. It's what I'm going to continue to do. I hope you guys enjoy it. I do enjoy making them, so please spread the word, spread the love. That's what I plan on doing. Maybe that'll be my new motto. Spread the word, spread the love. I like that. But for now, I'm not okay. Clearly. I hope you guys have been okay, but not too okay, so we can not be okay together. Thanks, guys. Bye.